Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. This week's election of principal officers in the Senate and House of Representatives, to all intents and purposes, turned out to be a family affair for the All Progressives Congress Party. Despite several hints that suggested intra-party hiccups over the matter of zoning during the build-up, President Bola Tinubu and his party henchmen succeeded in having their way by securing the plush positions of Senate President and Deputy, as well as Speaker of the House and Deputy Speaker. On the other hand, the People's Democratic Party apparently failed to galvanize the rest of the opposition caucus in making any appreciable impact during the exercise. Before this time, there had been moves to build some form of opposition coalition with a view to challenging for the key offices. With this outcome, however, is there redemption on the horizon for PDP in the foreseeable future, with the party apparently still smarting from a major reverse during the last elections? Who is going to lead the charge or be the desired pivot to prevent another rubber stamp scenario in the National Assembly going forward? Well, joining us now to look at some of the critical points is Kola Ologbondiyan, a former National Publicity Secretary of the People's Democratic Party. Thank you so much for joining us today on the morning show.
Thank you very much, Sheito. And good morning, Aaron.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for being here. Now, let's go straight into it. I mean, we saw what played out on June 13th on the House of, the floor of the Senate, and it's almost looked like I just described, it was a good day for APC. So I want to ask you this. How did the absence, or would I say limited presence of the PDP affect the overall dynamics and competitiveness of the National Assembly leadership elections? Did the PDP face any internal divisions or challenges that hindered its ability to effectively participate or influence the National Assembly leadership elections?
I do not think that the PDP was absent. Or the PDP was absent in the entire process. I do not think so. I think what happened, as it does in all politics, is that majority seems to have carried the day. In the House of Representatives, Speaker Abbas was elected by majority of the members of the House of Representatives across the party. In the Senate, I think that after the election between Senator David Mark and Senator George Akume, I think this is the next situation in which we have a very competitive and even discourse or the votes that were cast at the end of the day. This last election in the Senate appeared to be more competitive since 1999, if you look at the trajectory of the elections in the parliament. So I do not think that PDP did not try to make impact. I think PDP tried to make impact because if you go by results that have been circulated in public space, although the Senate arm of the National Assembly has not declared openly that is a true reflection of what happened on the floor, but you discover that the PDP seems to have rallied behind Senator Yari much more than Senator Akpabio. And so that also shows a party's direction. Although I will not say clearly if that decision was taken from the party or it was just at the discretion of the senators themselves. But what happened in the House of Rep was that it appears as if across the party lines, decisions were reached to go in one direction.
All right. A lot of people have spoken about the fact that the PDP is near comatose at the moment, that they are a headless organization that lacks the gravitas to be able to play in the political space in 2023. Because some say that is very evident when you look at the fact that at a certain time, the Senate president right now used to be the minority leader of the Senate for the PDP. But right now, he's the Senate president. That at some point, he jettisoned the PDP because probably there were roots in relevance. And time again, as we see things unfold in the political sphere, the PDP are showing that they cannot rally themselves together and form a very, very staunch opposition against the APC?
Well, while I want to agree with you that the party is confronted by huge challenges as we currently speak, I will not also go with you that, oh, maybe we are about to sing the non-dignities of the People's Democratic Party. I don't want to agree to that. I know, and I cannot live in self-denial by coming to the public to say that, oh, there are no issues. There are issues in the party. The party is confronting huge challenges internally, but that should not suggest that that is the end of the party or that the party's non-dignities will soon be sunk.
Okay, so let's talk about, I mean, still reeling off the role, will I say the lack thereof of the PDP. Now, what would you say, just give me a second here now. What would you say, when you look at the role or the lack thereof of the PDP in the National Assembly leadership elections, how does that reflect the broader trends or dynamics within by looking at the politics of the party, especially when talking about shaping the future of what PDP stands to push forward in the legislative, when we're looking at the National Assembly. If we're not necessarily seeing the strength of the party during the elections, how will it hold through for the next 4 years?
Well, if you ask me, the party leaders, and let me declare that the party members in the Senate and in the House of Rep have not formally announced their leadership. I read reports last night of Honorable Kingsley Chinda, a fourth-termer, possibly going to lead the House of Representatives. And I know by my working in the party, I know the character and the capacity of Honorable Kingsley Chinda, particularly on legislative issues and even party affiliation. And if he comes up to be the leader of the House and he's still a committed member of the People's Democratic Party, I expect him to be able to lead a viable opposition. But having said that, the picture in the Senate is not as clear as what has transpired in the House of Reps. There are names that are being mentioned for the leadership of the minority in party circles. Or we have names like Senator Tambuwal. We have heard names like Senator Abdul Nengi. We have heard names like Senator Abamuro. So, but all these they are yet to coalesce as per the direction that the minority caucus will go. In time past, parties in the minority can sit down with their members in the parliament to say, oh, for the minority position, let us go in this direction. But you know, with what happened after the 2019 election, in providing leadership for the House of Rep in particular, where Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, rightly or wrongly, had to impose leadership of the minority on the party. I don't think we have left that cough yet. I think we are going to see a play out of that similar. We might likely see a play out of that situation too. But we wait and see how it runs. But painfully, the party has not taken the stead. The party has not positioned itself to provide, to advise, or to even to signify a process that will provide the leadership in the two houses of the National Assembly. But having said that, that will not foreclose, because when you look at the voting pattern of the Senate, you can see clearly that the minority parties tried to work together. And if they continue in that trajectory, there's a likelihood that they will be able to create a formidable minority caucus that will be able to ensure that though there could be compatibility between the National Assembly and the executive, but the interests of the people must be paramount.
All right, Kola, looking at the number of senators you have in the National Assembly, of course, the PDP appreciated the numbers from 33 to about 36 of the 109 senators that we do have in the National Assembly. But leadership still remains the bane of all the discussion we talk about when we speak about the PDP. how can the PDP get out of its own way and ensure that the party has a focus, a direction, and a singularity of probably vision to ensure that they form the needed opposition in the National Assembly, so that we do not have what we saw in the Ninth Assembly, whereby people criticized it heavily for being a rubber stamp?
Well, Aaron, I like to say this, and it's not limited to the People's Democratic Party. I think it's across the parties. There are certain positions being held, and this stemmed from the fact that it's no longer about institutions in Nigeria. It's about strong personalities. And this has affected every fabric of our life. And we must accept this as a people. And that is the same thing that has been transferred to the parties. The parties are no longer supreme. The supremacy of the party has been whittled. People drive after individuals. People drive after ambitions. And as a result of that, it becomes irrelevant what the choice of the party is. It is what the position of the hardliners, what are their position, what are they talking about, and what are they supporting. That's the direction people are going. And when you have that kind of a circumstance, where party has no capacity, where...
No, but Kola, you'd be expecting that the PDP should be a little bit different. Because at a certain time, the PDP used to boast that they were the biggest party in Africa. And you'd expect that carrying that particular garb or that particular nameplate as as the biggest political party in Africa, that they have people that they have what they call it, positions that are stronger than people. Because when you have people that are stronger than positions that we've seen play out in the PDP time and time again, the party will be where they are.
Aaron, I don't think you got the drive of my discussion. What I was saying is that in our country today, except we want to run away from the facts, in our country today, institutions are taking the backstage and strong personalities are taking the front line. And as a result of that, it is going to be difficult for parties to be able to do the necessary thing. Let me give you an example. For instance, those who play politics today, because the Constitution and the electoral statutes say that you must have a platform, because there's no provision for independent candidates. So you must have a platform on which you must run for your election. People will tell you, party members will tell you today that, oh, party is just a vehicle. Oh, party is just a means. Oh, party is just to enable me to win my election. And true to what they are saying, after winning the election, parties are abandoned. And Aaron, ask your correspondent, whether in the PDP, whether in the APC, as we speak today, whether the 5 members of the party, whether elected or non-elected, driving into the party premises to even ask questions. So once the elections are won, parties are forgotten. And people will even come out and tell you that there's no more politics, there's no more party. That, oh, it's governance now. Let's go and face governance. So people are no longer committed to their respective parties. People are now driving after the self and also driving after what suits me, what do I want, or what. So these are the challenges that the parties are confronting. Not many people will come out and say this, but when you go into the party, this is what you are going to find. And that's the reality of it. So the parties in themselves need to be fixed. And that's very important. And the people who are practicing, people who are partisan in politics also need to have some level of respect for their parties. Until we return to that, until we return to the system that was operable or operational in the Second Republic, where a Shehu Shagari will not look into the eyes of the national chairman of MPN in those days, or where a late Bola Ige will not look into the eyes of Chief Obafemi Awolowo, but will conform with the principles, with the policies, with the ideologies of their respective political parties. Unless we are able to do that, I don't know. I don't know what the parties can do.
You see, Mr. Kola, this line of questioning has seen us delve further into the intricacies and nuances of PDP's role in the National Assembly leadership elections, exploring internal and external factors that may have influenced the party's impact. Now, can we begin to consider the implications and the potential strategies for the PDP moving forward? What action plan should the PDP consider to strengthen its position and relevance in contributing to the current 10th National Assembly?
But I began by saying, Shaitan, you know that I began by saying that the PDP is currently challenged. And that is the whole truth. The modus operandi of the challenges is not what I will come here to come and discuss or to go further than I have done. But the party is strongly challenged. So the basic line is to return inwards and resolve all issues. And parties should be prepared. What I mean parties, members or leaders should be prepared to do some level of forgiveness and, just accepting issues the way they are and saying that, oh, how do we move forward from here? That's very important. On the leadership of the parliament, I've said this, Satan. I said, for the House of Rep, there appears to have been a picture of what's likely going to emerge. And I said that, oh, Honorable Kingsley Chinda is being listed in the media as a minority leader that has been adopted. I do not know because the minority caucus has not come out to openly declare that. But that's what we are hearing. And I said in the Senate, there are names that have been thrown up already about people who might possibly be in the leadership of the party. And I know it that notwithstanding the level of compatibility between the executive and the National Assembly, that if we have the names that I had mentioned earlier, particularly in the House of Rep and also in the Senate, if any of the names come up, I believe, and I strongly do, that Nigerians can get an opposition that will be stable. Because even for the party to be able to operate as an opposition political party, you need inputs from the parliament on their course of action, on their approaches. That's what's going to help the party to develop, stance on opposition politics.
All right, Mr. Ologbondiyan. Okay, first of all, let me just point this one out. Like we've seen even in American politics, at a certain time, the Republican Party was about individuals, Donald Trump, most importantly, more than any other thing. And while he was there, it was not necessarily about the Republicans and what they stood for, but rather what Donald Trump believed as a president and what he actually stood for. So it is not peculiar to Nigeria. But moving away from that, I would like to find out from you. The elections have come and gone. We know cases are still in tribunal and we are still hashing these things out. But question is, has the PDP done a postmortem? Because a lot of people are quite disappointed at the level of opposition that the PDP has put out over the years. Since 2015, or even before 2015, we know that the PDP has been heavily fractured. And a lot of people have been hoping that the PDP will be able to set aside their differences and come together, galvanize themselves together, and form a strong opposition. That did not happen in 2023. And the question is, has postmortems been done on the failings of the PDP, both in the Senate, because as it is, they have a minority stake in the National Assembly as against that of the APC. So when you look at all segments in governance, the PDP has fallen short. Have they done a postmortem to that particular effect?
Aaron, thank you very much. I will come back to the last question, but let me take the first one. I'm always amused when, as Nigerians, we sit down to compare what happens in America, what happens in the advanced democracies, and this and that. Is our country structured the way those democracies are structured? Our institution, does our institutions have the capacity to process our advancement to a greater democracy? I don't think the answer is yes. I don't think so. And I say this because we cannot say that, oh, in America, the last president, Trump, did this, did that. It was about him. And because of that, we'll practice that in Nigeria. When they went to election, did Trump win? That is the capacity of using the institution to check strong characters. Do we have that system? We don't. I want to leave it at that. Going into the issue of postmortem, Aaron, for any political party, particularly in our own country, election does not end at the ballot. So there are stages. You have the stage of parties nominating their candidates. You have the stage of candidates going out to campaign. You have the stage of INEC doing its glitches or whatever and coming out with a result. You have a stage in which the candidates and their parties go to the court. That is the final stage. Once you come out of that final stage, you can sit down and be doing a postmortem. Let me rest on this.
No, but the question now, that is why I deliberately put that you look at the National Assembly. At least if the presidential elections are still being contended in court as we speak, but the National Assembly is almost a slam dunk already. I don't think anything will shift some of this, shift the goalpost, so to speak. As it stands right now, the number of senators we have is 36 for the PDP, which is far less than what the APC does have. So now the question is, why is it that continuously now, back to back, because in the 9th Assembly, it was 33. And as it stands, the PDP is polling fewer senators than the APC in the National Assembly. And questions should be asked by the PDP, if they are a serious party, on how can they gain the ascendancy that they had previously in 1999, in 2003, in 2007, in 2011, and the rest of them.
Okay, Aaron, like I said, postmortem of all the elections will be done together. And I remember that in your opening remark, Aaron, you did say that, oh, the PDP has even moved from 33 to 36. It's an advancement, it's a progress. It might not fit into the expectations of party watchers, but at least, no matter how minimal it is, at least there's some level of progress. Aaron, I understand where you are coming from. And I believe that your position is that, oh, the last National Assembly under Senator Ahmed Lawan was considered a rubber stamp. After all, Ahmed Lawan came out openly and declared that whatever President Muhammadu Buhari brings will pass. So I can understand where you are coming from. I can understand the feeling. But I have said that if you look at the manner in which Senator Akpabio was elected as Senate President, if you look at the process, I am saying that it is the most competitive since 1999 till date, because it is the one election in which minority have over 40 votes. When Senator David Mark and Senator George Akume ran an election together in 2007, I remember, it was 60-something to 30-something. Thereafter, the next election of Senator Mark was consensus. Every senator adopted him. There was no vote. Nobody contested again. And after him was Ahmed Lawan election. I do not think that Ndume scored up to 40-something in that election. So what I am saying is that, given the colors of this election in the parliament, in the Senate, I see the opposition working strongly together. That's one. And I've said that those whose names are being thrown up in the Senate, the likes of former Speaker and former Governor Waziri Aminu Tambuwa, the likes of former House leader and former Senate Deputy Leader, Senator Abdul Nengi, and in the likes of Senator Abba Moro, a comrade and former minister, the names that are being thrown up for leadership of the minority, they should be able to provide their right leadership. And I said that in the House of Rep, it was the names that came up were the names of Honorable Kingsley Chinda and Wally from Osun State. And that we are reading reports saying that, oh, Honorable Kingsley Chinda has been adopted. I've not seen it. I've not seen the minority caucus making the announcement. It has not been read on the floor of the House, because those are the things that will make the confirmation. But however, I also said that given the personality of Honorable Chinda and given his capacity and his legislative experience as a fourth termer, that I will expect him, and I know his affiliation to issues of parties, that I expect him that when he becomes a leader, he can lead opposition. That's the point I have made. And I'm not afraid and I'm not worried about the possibility of having a strong opposition, notwithstanding the collaboration that might exist between the parliament and the executive. What's important, as far as I am concerned in my personal capacity, is the good of all. And that's what I expect the minority parties to come together and work for in the new parliament.
Okay, then, Mr. Kola, let's move the conversation along a bit. Even though the court has subsequently adjourned proceedings until 19th of June, talking about the general elections tribunal that is currently going on, I have to push your attention to a particular, the statement that the current president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, did give on Democracy Day, that's on June 12, where he did, of course, talk about the fact that he did say that it has become imperative to state here that the unnecessary illegal orders used to truncate or abridge democracy will no longer be tolerated. And of course, the aide to former presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, described this particular statement as a veiled threat to the nation's judiciary. Now, especially in the process of determining the credibility of the elections, I wonder what your reaction is to this statement that the current president put out on Democracy Day regarding the current election petition that is in court.
Thank you very much, Sheiton. I want to state emphatically that the People's Democratic Party is at the presidential tribunal. And I also know it as a fact that I have not seen any statement from the People's Democratic Party recognizing the election of Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And as such, as a member of the PDP who subscribes to his ideals, to his ideology, I comport myself within the realm of whatever is happening in the People's Democratic Party. So as a result of that, I will not debate Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu, whether in his messaging or in whatever, until the end of the tribunal. And I seek your leave to allow me to hold to this position.
All right. I want to say many thanks to you, Kola Ologbondiyan, former PDP National Secretary, for your time here on The Morning Show.